Sometimes the most beautiful memorials aren't built from success or strength, but from the moments we thought we wouldn't make it through. Every scar, every tear, every small act of trust along the way becomes a stone of remembrance, proof that what once wounded you has been transformed by grace. Do you want to achieve your goals, but anxiety is tripping you up? Like to keep those fun weekend plans, but depression has you counseling again? Hey, I'm Lori, dog mom, lover of nature, and hygge enthusiast. Positive psychology skills help me overcome chronic severe PTSD. If you're ready to learn how to overcome your anxiety and depression and rediscover happiness and purpose in life, then get your cozy on and let's get started. Welcome back to Practical Solutions for PTSD. If what you're hearing on this podcast rings a bell for you, but you'd like a little bit more assistance, you can apply for a one-on-one 60-minute coaching call where we will help you establish personalized strategies for you to handle your anxiety, your depression, do some mind shifts to help you with your stress, etc. So you can reach out and schedule an appointment at calendly.com/practical solutions for PTSD. That's Calendly, CALENDLY.com/practical solutions for PTSD. How many of us who have experienced trauma hesitate to look back at it or to remember it at all? I know something I hear often when talking to people about trauma or PTSD is so-and-so never talks about it. They'll never mention it. And I know for myself, when I got back from Kuwait, it probably took me a good year to 2 years before I even wanted to say the word Kuwait. I didn't want to talk about it at all. At all. It was just too painful and traumatic. I didn't want to talk about the experience I had there. I didn't want to talk about anything. But did you know that the practice of looking back can actually be part of some radical healing in your life? And it is something that we often avoid because we're afraid of the pain and where it can drag us back into that, where we're actually reliving that experience. And I absolutely do not want you to do that. It's not what this, we don't want you to relive anything, but if you can get to the place where you can reflect back on where you've been and the growth that has happened, when it's done gently, intentionally, and with compassion, reflection can become a powerful part of healing. So today we're going to talk about the power of remembrance and how it can help you to move forward without reliving. Again, we don't want you to relive it, but to hold on to the lessons that you learned through that pain. Because you learn so much when you're in a place of pain. And when you're surviving through that and coming through that, you come out stronger and you've learned lessons and nuggets of wisdom that you want to hold on to. You don't want to lose that. So understanding how to reflect back and how to do that well. That's what we're going to talk about today. So we are going to integrate a little more of the faith perspective on this. We're also going to talk about the neuroscience behind it. We're also going to integrate the book Hinds Feet on High Places, written by Hannah Hurnard. This is an allegory, but it talks. We're going to talk about some of the lessons there because they're just beautiful pictures of what it means for God to redeem our memories and to redeem our pain. So why does reflection matter in healing? And when we're talking about reflection, this is periodic. You definitely don't want to live in the past. You don't want to always be looking back. You want to focus primarily on moving forward, taking the next step forward. But being able to look back and review where you have been and see how far you have come and to remember those lessons that you have learned and to be able to sanctify that pain in your life and realize that the purpose in it, this can be very powerful. So when you walk through the trauma, your brain often files painful experiences in fragments. You don't necessarily remember everything. You just remember pieces of emotion, pieces of sensation, pieces of memory that don't fully connect. Reflection, when it's done safely, helps your brain to integrate those pieces into a whole. So this is a place where you can say, that happened to me, but it's not happening now. All right, now I'm in a safe place. This was what happened then. So that's the difference between reliving your story and remembering it, like literally joining the pieces, the members or the pieces of that memory, that trauma into a whole that begins to make sense in your life. And this is one reason why it's beneficial, because it's helping giving meaning to some of that pain and helping you to garner the lessons that you learned. So you can see patterns or strengths, growth that you may have missed when you were just surviving, when you're just putting one foot in front of the other. You're not seeing all that, but looking back, you're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that was happening. And you can start seeing some of that, which helps bring healing to your life while you're reflecting back. So we're not revisiting wounds. We don't want to do that. It's about witnessing the healing that took place. And I'm just going to give a little caveat here. Depending on your trauma and where you are in that journey, this may be something that you want to get someone to help you with. And that is not only okay, but it is advisable. I really encourage you to do that. A counselor, a friend, a pastor, somebody who knows and understands how to deal with trauma and can help you through some of that integration of those memories and help you to reflect back. Don't try to just jump in and do it on your own. I am going to give you some practical steps that you can implement. But if it's something that's too overwhelming for you or you just can't deal with it right now, it's okay. You can get some help that can possibly do it in the future. Maybe when you're ready, you can. Looking back and remembering is a powerful way to see what God has done in your life and where He has brought you, but you do want to do it when you're ready and able to do so safely. So, when you're remembering without reliving, there's a huge difference between the two. Remembering means you're looking at your past from the place of safety. You're observing it like a scene in a movie or a chapter in a book that you read or something of that nature. While you know that you're okay, everything is okay right now. I'm just looking back at this from a safe distance. Reliving means that your body and emotions feel like it's happening all over again. So you might feel your heart rate going up, or you might feel your jaw tension, your muscles in your shoulders clenching. Wherever you hold your tension, you're going to start feeling that in your body if you're reliving it. Because your body right now is telling you this is unsafe. If you're feeling these emotions when you're looking back, your body's telling you, I'm not safe. So you want to try to ground yourself and let yourself know that it's okay. So you might say out loud, that was then, this is now. I am safe in this moment. Right this moment, I'm safe. I can look back without going back. Another thing you might want to try is just in your grounding practices is to focus on what you're feeling currently. So one technique that a counselor taught me was these little metal stretchy rings that you can put on your finger, and they provide just enough discomfort to your finger to help you know that you're in the moment. So sometimes I still use them occasionally. If I'm feeling anxious, I'll slip one on my finger and just kind of run it back and forth. It's like a coiled spring, except it's in the shape of a ring. It's stretchy. And you just run it up and down your finger, maybe squeeze it a little bit. You can pull on it, various things, just switch it from finger to finger. I'll do that as well. But it's just enough discomfort to make you to help your body realize that you're here now and you're not where your memories are taking you. So this can help your brain to process the memory while staying anchored in the present. So all these grounding practices can help you with that. So in the story of Hinds Feet on High Places, the main character is much afraid, and she's going up this mountain to the high place to be able to get Hinds Feet that will help her to go up and down the mountain with grace. And so she's going at the shepherd's direction, and there are, throughout her journey, she has 12 different places that she faces a challenge of one form or the other. And at the end of each challenge, she receives this memorial stone, and they're not very beautiful. They're kind of, gray, ugly. They have actually some painful memories because of the trial that she went through in that particular area. But the shepherd tells her early on, you want to save these. So she puts them in a bag as she goes up the mountain, and they are reminders of the places where she encountered suffering or she surrendered and encountered grace. So each stone represents a moment of transformation because she would give up one certain thing or would sacrifice something or whatever it was in that trial that she would go through. It was a time when she chose trust over fear, when she was obedient over her own self-will, when she chose to love instead of be bitter. And you can see this practice of collecting memorials, or even specifically memorial stones, throughout, especially the Old Testament. You see this a lot. One of the best remembered or best known ones was when the children of Israel crossed the flooded Jordan River into Canaan land. And the men gathered, the priest of each tribe gathered a stone and built an altar in the midst of the river. And then they built another one of 12 stones on the Canaan side of the Jordan River. And it was a memorial for them for generations to come, that they would look back and tell their children and their children's children, this is how God brought us across the Jordan River. It was a time of witness and testimony of God's strength. And you see it in the same way with Much Afraid. As she goes through these trials and these difficult times on her way up the mountain in Hinds Feet and High Places, those stones became markers of God's presence in the valley. Not just on the mountaintop, where she was seeking to meet him in the high place and have her hinds feet replace her crippled feet, but God was also meeting her in the valley. And the same is true for us. Every trial that we go through along the way, God promised for those of that are his children, he promises to walk every single step with us, that we're never alone. So every stone that Much Afraid brought with her was a reminder of a promise. The promise that the shepherd would walk with her, would always be there within calling distance to help her through those difficult times. And we could take the stones, our own memorial stones, to the trials and difficult times that we've been through, and how that it becomes a promise remembered, a promise that God fulfilled. When he walked me through that difficult time, he walked me through that trial. He is turning that trial into a blessing. And this is where you see some of the transformation through remembering. By the end of her journey, Much Afraid reaches the high place, and she's renamed Grace and Glory. She's given her hinds feet so she can now move with grace. She was crippled before that in her feet, but now she can move with grace up and down the mountain with speed. And in the process, she presents those memorial stones to the shepherd, and he turns them into just beautiful jewels. So this moment shows us something very sacred. Remembrance is a part of transformation, not clinging to the pain, but redeeming it. This is where the pain of the suffering that we've all been through is redeemed and turned into purpose. Our pain becomes purpose, and it becomes the promise that we are living out in our lives. Each stone that once marked sorrow for Much Afraid, now grace and glory, shines as worship. It's a vivid picture of what healthy remembrance looks like in healing. We don't erase the past. You can't. The past is the past, and it's made us who we are today. But we bring it to the shepherd, and he can transform the pain into promise, turn those wounds into a witness of his strength and his grace. That's what it looks like to remember through the lens of grace. As we look back in those moments of pain and knowing that God was working through all that. So Much Afraid in the story of Hinds Feet, a memorial it's not about nostalgia. It was about testimony. This wasn't something that she did just to feel good, but it was a testimony of what the shepherd had done for her. Each memory became a declaration. Here too, the shepherd was faithful. When I went through this, I was changed. When I was here, the shepherd kept his promise. Every single one of those was a moment of remembrance, not so much of the pain, but how God had redeemed that pain into a beautiful purpose in her life. That's the essence of redemptive remembrance, not dwelling in the sorrow, but sanctifying the story. And there's a song that we sing at church, How Firm a Foundation, and there's a part of that where it talks about sanctifying the trials. And for a long time, I didn't understand what that meant. And then I thought I kind of did. But it wasn't until I went through some serious brokenness that I understood what that meant. Where you're taking the time when you are so broken, giving it back to the shepherd or giving it back to God and letting him turn that into a moment that shouts his grace, that shouts what he has done for you and turns it into a beautiful promise in your life. So in trauma healing terms, this is what they call integration. So when you're looking at it from a scientific perspective, from psychological neuroscience type thing, this is where you're integrating the past with your current story. It no longer defines you or controls you, but it becomes a part of it. Just weaves into the fabric of your whole story. So remembrance turns pain into worship. This is a time when I do this often. I look back at what God has done and what he's brought me through. And it just fills my heart with so much joy to know how God has transformed some of my most painful moments into a purpose in my life and is turning that into a promise and is just making something beautiful. No, it's not something I would ever want to go through again, but it is just the beauty that God has brought out of that by me surrendering that to him. And I can look back on it and it brings tears of joy to my heart, knowing what God has done and turning that moment into, it's turning that pain into worship. I can turn this over to God and worship him because what he has done. So, a remembrance and your memorial stones can become a lesson for the healing journey. Much like in our own lives, these memorials remind us that pain remembered with gratitude becomes wisdom. Reflection turns trauma into testimony. Healing means we can revisit the past without being trapped. I can look back at some of those moments that were the most painful and I can see God's hand in my life. I can see how he taught me lessons through that have transformed me into the person I am today. Remembrance becomes a pathway to wholeness. It's a gentle, sacred practice of saying, that was hard, but look what God has done. It's amazing. I can stand where I am today because of what God has done in my life. He has taken the pain and transformed it into what it is today. When we allow God to touch those memories, we discover that reflection isn't about staying in the past. It's about transforming it into praise. So even in all the memorials you see throughout Scripture, God wasn't wanting them to live in that moment again, but to reflect on what God had done for them by seeing these memorials. And we can do that in our own life. So in the story of Hinds Feet in High Places, the shepherd never asked, much afraid, to pretend her journey wasn't painful. Not one single time. He simply asked her to trust that every valley had a purpose. By remembering every step, every tear, she began to see her story through his eyes. And that's what remembrance and healing meet. When you look back, not to relive, but to recognize, not to mourn, but to marvel at the grace of God and what he has done in your life, and to see it through his perspective. And this is where neuroscience agrees. Reflection helps your brain, literally can help your brain integrate memories and emotions. And some of the treatment I did with PTSD, some of that they actually would tell you to lean into those memories and it would help your body and your mind to be able to integrate them. So when you can safely revisit your story, you teach your nervous system you don't have to sound the alarm anymore. I made it through. I'm on the other side. I'm stronger now. I'm safe now. And the part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex part of your brain that helps with reasoning and emotion regulation becomes stronger through this process. Your body learns how to be at peace again. And this is God's design at work. Your mind, your body, your spirit, learning together that healing is possible. There is healing after pain. In Hinds Feet in High Places, remembrance isn't about staying in the past. It wasn't about living in the moments that Much Afraid had gone through. It was about transforming it into worship. Like the memorial stone whispers, I was there. And it hurt a lot. But God met me there, and I'm not the same anymore. That's the heart of healing reflection. You can hold on to the lessons from your past without holding on to the pain. You could remember the valley, which was tough and hard and dark and difficult, and still rejoice in the view of the mountain. You've made it to the top. God has transformed you, has brought you through that trial, and you can look back with rejoicing at what God has done. So, maybe this week, take a quiet moment to reflect. And there's lots of ways you can do this. You can light a candle. I actually have some candles that remind me, and I reflect back on my fur, my fur baby Boaz that died last year. But it's a moment I can look back. You can open a journal and write out what you're saying. Ask yourself these questions. What are my memorial stones? What are things that God has brought me through? How has he healed the hurt in my life? And where has he taken me? What kind of purpose is he breathing into my life through this pain? Where did God meet me in the middle of all that pain? Maybe I didn't see it at the time because I was so immersed in the pain, but looking back, I can trace God's hand through that. What moments now shine with grace instead of grief? At the moment, it was just too hard and it was so difficult, but now I can see where God was breathing grace into that in that moment. Every scar can become a story. Every valley, a memorial, and every memory, a song of worship. You are not the same person who walked through that storm. When you go through storms, God transforms you in the process. And when you look back now, you're seeing from the other side of healing. And that is sacred ground. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I know this episode, something like this, can be a little bit more challenging. So thank you for being with me, for sticking it out. So take a deep breath. Remember how far you have come and hold on with hope. If you're still in a difficult time, know that God is with you and you can hold on to the hope that He gives. A quick reminder that you can sign up for your 60-minute one-on-one coaching call at calendly.com/practical solutions for PTSD. Hope to see you there. Hey, my friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with someone you know who may be struggling with depression and anxiety? Also, would you please leave a quick review for the show? Knowing how this podcast is helping you fills my heart with so much joy, and it motivates me for future episodes. For now, it's time for Sam and I to head outside to enjoy some sunshine and fresh air. We'll see you back here on Tuesdays and Thursdays for more great episodes.